So today I thought it'd be a good idea to take a look at a restoration that I just finished. This is Micro Seiki BL-91. I've had this turntable for over 10 years now, and finally kind of got through enough smaller tables and different models to get the guts to do this one. Now, as far as I know, the previous owner didn't use this table a lot, but it's over 40 years old, so it wasn't necessarily quiet. I know the belt was old, and you could definitely hear the motor running when the turntable was in rotation or if there was a record playing. So I said, what the heck, let's take it all apart and see what we get. So I did that, and excuse the gloves. I usually give it a little push to help get it going, but now it's more than capable of playing on its own or getting up to speed on its own without much of an issue. So what I went ahead and did, the main issue that I was having with this turntable was actually the feet. The rubber had broken down to the point that the main, the spindle bearing or the reservoir where the bearing, the housing that it fit into would actually touch the surface of whatever table or shelf that I put it on. So that clearly wasn't good. And so what I'd done is basically put the table up on those felt furniture pads, and that wasn't clearly a permanent solution. So there's one maker of the feet, and it's like MNPC Builder, and this person has basically, I think they've machined the aluminum feet, but then sourced the rubber from an existing manufacturer and seem to have glued together multiple pieces to make a suitable foot for the table. So, no complaints there. They were $200, which was pricey, but I couldn't come up with anything better on my own without taking the feet off, and I didn't want to do that unless I had something to put on there. So what I found out is that the stock feet are, aluminum, but not really the best quality. The metal was really soft, and just running a razor blade underneath the edge to kind of remove the feet from the little bit of glue that they used left permanent marks in the aluminum. So that's sort of what sentimental value they may have had, or keeping the turntable original, that really kind of went out the window when I saw that they were not really that great quality. So when I put the feet on, it went on fine, no problem. It does raise the table up, and as before, there's now really no way to level the table unless you're going to constantly kind of pull the table to the edge and then loosen or tighten feet until you are happy with your, the status of how level your table is. Now, this one's close enough for what I'm doing, but ideally one day I'll sit here and mess with it and get it really nice and level. This console that the turntable sits on isn't the most level, but when I did put the feet on, I kind of had in mind what I thought would be sort of the tilt, and I got it pretty close. So there's a little ball bearing in the middle of that clamp, and it's not really moving. So it's close enough, and certainly sounds good. So no complaints there, but being sort of obsessive compulsive, I will go ahead and make sure it's dead level, as flat as can be, but that's not something I'm rushing to go in to do right now. I went ahead and I changed the bearing oil, the oil that is in the reservoir that the spindle fits into, and it was not a problem. There was another brave soul prior to me that had done this, and I'd removed the oil from a BL-51. It was shockingly bad at this point. Not shocking, it was sort of what you'd expect, but there were particles in it, and it just didn't seem prudent to leave it as it was. So I went ahead and I replaced it. I put in some spindle oil. I'm not sure what weight they were using. The oil that they had used was not very heavy, but it sure did stink, which sort of indicated to me and to that forum poster that it had lead in it or some kind of chemical, because this is before the time of synthetic oil. So it was definitely not synthetic, and it was definitely past its useful life. So it was something I felt that needed to be done. You could have put a heavier oil in there, could have done something heavier weight. I think that the table would still not have had any trouble getting up to speed. The little motor is pretty powerful. But when I put everything back together, the table was fast, but I was able to adjust everything in without really, I didn't have to go back onto the circuit board and adjust anything. So the changes were modest, which means that, I didn't fundamentally change how the bearing works. Speaking of the circuit board, however, that I did completely rebuild. There were two things that I did in this entire restoration that made a large difference in terms of the performance. And now, granted, I was just using the RPM app, which isn't going to be terribly accurate, but if you see a large increase in performance, then you probably had an increase in performance. I just think that these apps are kind of limited in terms of their usefulness to actually really find out what the table is capable of. But replacing the belt and then replacing the capacitors on the board, and that alone, no resistors at that point in time, but just replacing the capacitors cut the distortion, the wow and the flutter by basically half. So according to the app, it went from basically about 0.18% or 0.2% to like 0.1, 0.11, 0.12%. And actually one test, I got the distortion down to 0.07%, which is basically 20th out of 10,000 turntables on that list in that database. So this turntable is, according to that database, quite good. And they simply just do not build things like this anymore. I don't want to push up the market value of these, but there's a lot of performance in a turntable here that you can get for $1,500 to $2,000. There are people out there convinced that there's something inferior about a 70s turntable when, well, there was a lot of R&D and a lot of money that went into the development of these kinds of turntables, especially out of Japan at that time. So additionally, of course, I replaced the belt. I have not gone too crazy with, ordering the belt. There's one maker of these belts, I believe, that makes them to the original spec, which is like a polyester and rubber hybrid belt. He's kind of hard to deal with, but I will attempt once more to get one of his belts, or maybe a couple, so that I may not deal with him for some time again. And then, obviously could report back if there was some sort of, groundbreaking improvement in performance. In the end, I did end up pulling the board a second time, and I replaced every single resistor on the board. And I noticed absolutely no improvement in performance. So that leaves me to believe that the motor is the limiter here, that the circuitry is capable of lower distortion, but the the motor is sort of pushing up against its performance limits. Now, there still were some Zener diodes that could have been replaced. I could have tried to replace the transistor that made up the dual NPN that made up the differential pair, but I didn't go there because the specs for that old transistor were actually quite compelling. What I would likely do is find some new old stock units and then test until I felt that I had a very close match. Beyond that, I don't think I'd go and put some kind of different value or different kind of transistor in that spot, because I don't quite know if it'd be worth it. And then I've removed that part, and it's basically a 5-pin design, so not necessarily the easiest thing to replace with something that's likely going to be 6 pins. So all in all, I'm very happy with this turntable. It's kind of unreal sitting here, standing in front of it, and talking to you, because I've had it for so long, and now it's all cleaned up with new feet on it. I polished the acrylic or plexiglass cover, and that was very nice. The result was far better than I had thought it'd be. It was already in good shape, but it was basically, in hindsight, cloudy. It wasn't nearly this clear, and so I use a 3M 3-stage automotive polishing kit with the 3-inch pads that you can now get, and did all 3 stages. I have some swirls left, which means I probably should have used new pads instead of trying to reuse old ones. This is kind of a problem with these automotive kits, buffing kits, is that really you should only use the pads once, unless you have some way to ensure that they're perfectly clean when you're done, and it's just very difficult. Anyway, that's another video for another time, but as you can see, the dust cover is quite clean, and I wish obviously that I could play a record for you, but I don't really want to get a copyright notice on the account, and so I will sort of leave the video at that. But I've been wrapping up some projects recently. This was one of them, and there'll be some more videos. I've got a collection of Thorn's TD124s that I've been working on, and I've almost finished all of them, complete restorations as well, and a lot of time invested in those. I should add, because I'm thinking about the Thorns now, I did replace the bearing in the bottom of this micro Seiki. So now there is a sapphire ball and sapphire end plate or end window, which functions as a thrust bearing, and that, I believe, had some level of, the turntable runs far more quietly in terms of audible noise, which obviously should translate into less noise when listening to a record through your speakers. So that was another thing that I did. You don't have to use sapphire. There are other options out there, but I like the sapphire on sapphire combo. I've never had an issue with that combo in terms of where to either surface, where if I've used a carbide ball and sapphire thrust plate, I've had almost immediate issues with wear if there was somehow not enough lubricant on either the ball or the thrust plate. But anyway, I think that's the totality of what I did to this table. The new feet, the rubber is definitely much harder than the old rubber, but the area where the feet connect to the bottom of the plinth is a softer rubber that seems to be designed to absorb shock and vibration, and I've noticed no issues with performance or rumbling or any kind of audible issues. So I think they're fine, but I may now sort of look more into what could be done in terms of feet, whether it be springs or something else. The RX 1500 had spring feet. These tables are actually quite similar, the same motor as the RX 1500, same platter if you have the non-vacuum model. Circuit board's identical. I have a RX 1500, so I know for sure that they are the same. But definitely some places where there could be improvement, and you could basically have a very pretty looking RX 1600 or RX 1500 without having a two-piece behemoth ceramic fragile. I mean, they're both fragile, but the ceramic is a whole other level of brittle. Anyway, I will leave it at that. I hope you'll check out my other videos. I do have a good number that are related to vintage audio and other high quality products. And I'll be adding more, so likely you'll see quite a few vintage audio related videos as I sort of wind down a few years of very heavy restoration focused activities. A lot of things are being finished right now that I've sort of been putting off, and so appreciate it if you'd like the video and subscribe and leave a comment if you wanted to see something else or just want to say hi. Thanks a lot. Happy New Year. So just as I was finishing the last clip, I realized that I have all of the parts still out of the RX 1500. Now there are some differences in terms of how everything's packaged. The switches in the middle, buttons, toggles, those are different, and the housing, the bracket that the motor screws into is different as well. But the pulley and the motor itself is the same. So as I gently set that down, as is the transformer and the board as well. So this board is same layout, same parts, same look overall. You'd want to replace all of the electrolytics, use the best quality stuff you can get, maybe polymers as I use, they worked fine. And on the smaller ones you should be able to substitute with film instead of electrolytic capacitors. The film will be superior, and it may not lead to any performance improvement. I'm not sure, if it was which capacitor I replaced, had the most to do with any loss of performance over 40 years, but replacing them all seemed to work, and that's what I'd recommend doing. So anyway, this video is obviously very long, and so I am going to absolutely leave it at this. There's a good amount of information online that you can look at, and yes, you can pull most everything out of the bottom of the turntable in one piece without doing a whole bunch of soldering or cutting that you don't need to do. Anyway, thanks again.